And welcome to Impact 2025, our continuing conversation where we talk about all different types of topics. We do current events, we do, what's in the news. I guess that's similar to current events. We do race, we do religion, every single type of topic that you may want to discuss, we do that here. And the way we do it is we have our topics, we have sometimes guests, we have people who are able to type in questions and comments and their opinions into the comment section. And so we encourage you to be a part of the conversation. Type your questions in, type your comments in, put in your 2 cents. So as we go through our topics, we always encourage people to you know participate. All right. I'd like to remind people before we get started about our other offerings. This is Imani Christian Ministries. On Thursdays, we have Thursday Thirst, same place, Facebook and YouTube at 8 o'clock, at 7 o'clock, I'm sorry, Eastern Standard Time. Please join us for that, our weekly Bible study. And on Sundays at 10 o'clock, we have worship service, Eastern Standard Time, of course. And that you can do that here on Facebook and YouTube as well. And also, you can come in person if you are in the local area. And on Tuesdays, today at 7 o'clock, we have a time of prayer from 7 to 7:45. Pray anytime in between there. Please join us for a time of prayer. All right. All right. Now that we got that out of the way, look, it's a crazy world right now. We're going to be able to say that. Unfortunately, we're going to be able to say that every week. For a while. Just crazy things that are going on. A lot of different crazy things that are going on. We can look internationally and we can look at what's going on in Israel and Hamas. That still is a big discussion point, a big situation there. Even though now hostages have been released, there's been a ceasefire. It's still a little issue over there. We can look inward into the United States and look at our political system and some of the ridiculous things that are going on. Too many even to name, from executive orders down to people being fired, down to trying to freeze funding for charitable organizations, for nonprofit organizations, just all types of craziness that's going on. But we're not going to go to either one of those. We're going to go on to basically the event that we have that's been going on. And if you haven't been seeing it or haven't known about it, we've had a time for decision. And that's been a ongoing 3-part series where we've been able to talk about the different issues where it comes to who we are, and who we are in relation to who is our God and what is expected of us, and then what is our response. And so we'll have the last portion and part of that on February 1, Saturday, February 1, at 1 p.m. Please come by if you can. The address is on the screen. And if you can't, you can tune in here, Facebook and YouTube, and we will have it streamed as well. But a time for decision. A time for decision. And so I'll tell a quick story. This happens to everybody, so there's nothing unique about this story. There's nothing special about this story. It's just very quick. My son came home yesterday. He's 8 years old. He came home to the house and he said, "Hey, there was this boy at school. He was being racist." And so my son calls everything racist. So you got to take that with a grain of salt. So I was like, "Okay, well, tell me what happened. What was going on? What was racist?" And he was like, "Well, it was this black guy." I'm like, "Wait a minute now." One of his friends, and he said that he didn't want to be black. And I was like, "Wait, what?" He doesn't want to be black. He wished he wasn't black. And so my son's response to that was, "That's racist." And I said, "Well, I don't know whether or not that's racist, but that's unfortunate that he feels that way." But that is a common thing. Everybody at some point in their life who has black or brown skin has probably heard someone say that or heard of someone saying something similar to that. We have numerous examples of people like that. We have names for that type of situation, names that we try not to say anymore. We're saying Oreo or Uncle Tom or Sellout and all this kind of stuff. But there is a time in every person's life, every person of color's life, where they come across a scenario or a situation when you hear about somebody who doesn't want to be who they are. A black person who doesn't want to be black, a brown person who doesn't want to be brown, and somebody having an identity crisis. And, in relation to the time for decision, what we brought up, one of the first questions is who we are and who is our God. And I think as we talk through that and going into what my son was talking about with the young boy at school, you could say he doesn't know who he is. If you knew who you were, you may not say I don't want to be black. It's a possibility he does know who he is and he still doesn't want to be black. I would be shocked, but and then who is your God? You usually want to have an understanding of the relationship that we have, especially as black people, our special relationship that we have with God. And so, the questions, as I will put out to you, if anybody wants to comment on it, the question is, why do you think that a young kid, again, if my son's 8, I'm assuming the boy must be 8 or 9, he can't be too much older or younger. Why would somebody at that age come back out and make a comment, well, I don't want to be black? When you look around our climate and what we've done so far in the last 8 years, and I'm framing it that way again because that's what this boy's life is, that's what his experience is. And so you look at the last 8 years. The last 8 years we've had, if you look on the political scene, you can talk about, well, we got Trump, we've had Biden, and they've had Trump. So that's what that kid is seeing. When you look on the social kind of scene, this kid has gone through COVID and seen George Floyd and the Black Lives Matter movement. And you can go through and you can kind of look at the standpoint of what the church is. This is not probably, according to the reports, this is the smallest the smallest number of people identify as being Christian or being actively Christian or being church-going people in the United States that we've ever had. And so you can look at all these different situations and scenarios and even more that you may be able to think of. And you can sit back and say, over the last 8 years, an 8-year-old kid coming out and saying he didn't want to be black, why would that be? You would think, or I would think, all right, if you 8, that means you were like 4 or 5 when, in 2020, when Black Lives Matter was going on hard and when George Floyd was going on, and there was opportunity after opportunity to see how people were disrespecting and treating people of color poorly. And there was also an opportunity for you to see, hey, this is a group of folk who are going to stand up for themselves and fight back for themselves and see some of the stuff that's out here. But at the same time, you could look at that poorly. Black Lives Matter flamed out for the most part. It didn't work. Everything that we gained in that little bit of time, pretty much they want to take back. All of a sudden they had ID&E and DEI, and they had critical race theory, and you had all of these things where people were acknowledging the pain of not, the hardship of sometimes that's put on in this country upon people who are black and brown, and you would see all of that, but then all that's been taken away again. You can't do DEI. Critical race theory has become a bad word. Black Lives Matter. People swear it. You ask the question and the answer is no. So you could see where, one way or the other, when you're looking at the social scene, how this boy comes to that conclusion. Then it makes you wonder, all right, what else is going on? Are you in church? Do you have an opportunity to see others? Do you understand and relate with God and understand the journey and the relationship between God and people of color? That's one of the questions that we can sit back and ask. Just as a call out, because I know that our screen freezes sometimes, and it appears like it's frozen now. You still will be able to hear, and hopefully it'll just come back in. We're working on these technical issues, but if you can stick with us, we will power right on through. But there's this. It's the question of why you don't have pride. Why would a kid not want to be black? And when I talk about black, I always put black and Christian together, because if you're going from a history standpoint, it is very difficult to separate those two. If you're talking about black, you're talking about an African American person. It's hard to separate those two. So when I say them, it's the exact same thing. If you're proud of being black, then you're proud of being Christian. Or if you're proud of being black, then you understand the relationship that we've had with God, with Jesus Christ. If you know our journey and our struggle, and you know about the people who participated in the journey and the struggle, and that a large number of them got their courage and their faith from the courage and the faith in what they were doing from their faith in God, then you see that there's no separation there. But why in this climate would somebody be able to say that? And I can tell you right now, in our current climate, when we've allowed people to be emboldened to say whatever they want to say about black people, that could make you want to feel like, all right, maybe being black isn't the thing to be. When you're looking at all the TV commercials and everything like that, and you see that there are very few black people on TV commercials, and the ones that, you only can have the blended couple situation, which shows you it's a direct message that's basically saying, all right, we are trying to advertise to everyone and not one section or the other, but also at the same time, what we're not promoting is any kind of black on black situation. There can be some subtle things that'll get into your mind and make you think, all right, maybe being black isn't the thing to be. And so I think, and again, all right, there we go. So I think the question then is for somebody, do they know who they are? Do we know who we are? We have a comment. There was a black business owner whose product is sold in several companies, such as Walmart and Target. She is concerned that many blacks may boycott this store because of their stand related to DEI. She fears it will hurt minority businesses. She suggests just purchasing minority products from these stores. That's an interesting point. I've heard some of the topics that were put up. We're talking about Target, we're talking about Walmart, we're talking about some others who took down their DEI programs. And that's good. One of the first things I'll caution, though, is that some of these companies have taken down their DEI programs in the formal sense, but have not taken down the DEI programs in the non-formal sense. They go from DEI to IDE. They'll have the program set up, but just won't have the DEI administrator. So DEI administrator. So you want to be cautious first off before we even go there on the boycott, and just kind of make sure. All right, let's look and see what they're doing. So I do always want to I want to put that out because I've heard some people say that. You got to get that with some caution. But it also makes me happy to see that people even want to put forth some effort to boycott. Nowadays you don't see that. Nowadays what you'll see is people will love to have a rally or or march, and some of the older people will sit back and look at these kids and say that ain't nothing but a cookout. Y'all out here with water bottles and grills and everything like that. Y'all making it no, but people would love to do that. But when it comes to doing the hard work of sacrificing something, that's not where we have been in the recent. That's something of the past. This recent group of we're gonna fight back or we're gonna show our distaste for something that hasn't been with boycotts. I'll say this. Regardless of what we do, we need to do it together. And so if it is, and as much as we want to do our little piece and our little part alone, I think we need to do it together. I always say, let's go ahead and take, and I know people don't like this organization sometimes, or they have criticism of this organization sometimes, but I say, let's take the cue from the NAACP. If they say, let's boycott, then let's boycott. If they say, let's put this pressure on, then let's put this pressure on. I think that we need to do it together. I think the randomness of, or even if it's a social media idea or thing, it needs to be behind some physical organization. I think that that's the route that we need to go. Let's be truthful. Most of us don't have the ability to research and know what's up and what's not. As much as even this comment here where people and the lady saying she's fearing it'll hurt her business. We don't know what Target and Walmart and others are doing. again, we don't know if they're just taking down their formal DEI and they're still having the goals and some of the processes in place, or if they're just taking it away altogether. But when you get with a group and you get with an organization that can actually do that research and put that time in, then you can be a little bit more confident that what you're doing is the right thing. There's nothing worse than going out here and doing the wrong thing and thinking that you're doing right. And so she suggests she talks about the products in the stores. I'll say, look, there are products that I know that I don't purchase, and there's products that I know that I do purchase, regardless of whether or not you're boycotting or whatever. I think we should always purchase from minority companies. And so, as much as it sounds like I'm kind of going around in circles on this question, I'm not, in the sense of she just needs to remind people that I'm a minority-owned business, and we need to support her. And so if we don't support Walmart or we don't support Target, we still need to support her. And so I think the conversation doesn't need to be, all right, don't keep going to these stores, but then support these businesses. No, let's make sure that we can find you and support you. I think that's really the best way to kind of roll on that. We got some comments that rolled in over while we were kind of having some technical difficulties, so I'm going to run through these. The movement to do away with civil rights provisions and protections at this time may be in response to the dismantling and removal of Civil War heroes. Yeah, it's funny. I was talking to somebody the other day, and I was like, hey, man, did you not watch Star Wars? You had Star Wars, and then The Empire Struck Back. Star Wars, and then, and if you don't know Star Wars, this reference makes no sense to you. But you had Star Wars, you had Luke Skywalker and Leia and Han Solo, and they went in and they defeated all the bad people. They blew up the Death Star. And then in the next movie that came in, it was The Empire Strikes Back. Darth Vader and his group of people ended up coming back just as hard. And at the end of that movie, it was all terrible because The Empire Struck Back. If we thought for a second that we were going to push forward and we were going to take down these Civil War, they're not heroes, but these Civil War people who were on the wrong side, the losers of the war, we're going to take down their names and change some names. We were going to go out here and we were going to put out different programs, and we thought that there wasn't going to be a snapback. I think that we were foolish. Of course, it's going to be a snapback, and the snapback is going to be just as hard. And it's going to happen every time we take some steps forward. They're going to snap back, but we just going to have to keep stepping forward. And so, yes, I think that taking away some of these civil rights is as a result of some of these war people that Civil War losers, names being removed. And so, yeah, now we have to just make our next move. Because if you, again, with Star Wars, the next one was Return of the Jedi. So our next move needs to be our best move. And so that's what happens. If we do something, that people who oppose are going to make that next move back. A great comment. Next one, because it was just rolling. Unfortunately, I believe there are few today who are willing to sacrifice their time, resources, and much less their lives for the cause. Yeah. And so that I think that question goes right back to what the example of what the young man is, who we are. If you don't have an understanding of who you are or who we are, then there's nothing to sacrifice for. And it's not who you are, it's who we are. If you don't understand who we are as the group, you're not going to sacrifice for the group. If you don't understand even more so than that, I think when it comes back, like it says in Times of Decision, if you don't understand who our God is, then you definitely are not going to be able to have the faith and the understanding of, all right, it's time to sacrifice. And so I think that's where it comes from. Unfortunately, yes, I think too few people today understand who we are as a group. Even if they think they know who they are, or even if they think they know their family, you need to know who we are. And I hear these from time to time, you hear these comments about people who are saying, well, as people of color, as Black people, we don't have a culture, or as people of color or Black people, we don't have we don't really know our history, or we don't even know who we are, and and all these excuses as to say that we don't know who we are. Look, we don't need to know everything. If you feel that way, we don't need to know everything. If you feel like we don't have a culture, that doesn't make any sense. If we don't have a complete culture that compares to other people, you can say that. But whatever we are, whatever we do, that's our current culture. And so let's not let little things get in the way. As people say, let's not let perfect, get in the way of doing good. And so I think that that's the problem of we sometimes people don't know who we are. And sometimes we get in our own way of saying, well, we don't know who we are because we don't have a culture, and we don't have this, and we don't have that. No. Look, we know who we are. We are people who came, who were brought here, and we are people who were able to triumph over slavery. We were from a group of folk who were able to endure and persevere and push through slavery. We are the heroes of the slavery movement. Or not movement, we are heroes of slavery because we came out as the winners. Because now we are where we are because of who we were. And so I think that that's what we have to do. If you don't know who you are, and we don't know God, and we don't have anything to sacrifice for. And so I think that's why people can't sacrifice their time and their resources or even their lives, because they don't know who we are. All they know is themselves. They know themselves. They know what they want because they want to make money, and they know their family because they want to make generational wealth or whatever you want to call that. But that has nothing to do with the greater good. That's all selfishness. And as if you've been here before, you've heard me say it 1,000 times. Look, we got to stop talking about generational wealth, because all that is a repackaged way of saying greed. And that greed or being rich, that's a repackaged way of saying I want to be rich. And in order to be rich, you usually got to have a little greed in there. And not even a little greed, you got to have a lot of greed in there. And then that makes you self-serving. And so you're not going to sacrifice for the team. You're not going to sacrifice for the greater good. You're not going to sacrifice for us because you're so busy trying to get yourself rich or get your generational wealth. Don't fall into that trap. Don't fall into that trick. It's just another way of saying greed is good. And so not only do I not want to repeat it, I don't want to hear other people repeat it. And so when they say it, I'm always put it out there. All that means is being rich. It's just repackaged a way to fool you into being greedy. All right. Yeah. All right. So the last part of what we're going to talk about on Saturday, and it also talks about here, and it talks about with the young boy, going back to the original story of why a young kid would say he doesn't want to be black, is what is our response? What do we do now? What do we do to make sure that a young kid like that doesn't sit back and say, I don't want to be black, but has some pride in what's going on? What do we do? We sitting here in a situation of where, we would talk about people in black businesses. But when you see like huge black businesses, black corporations, you always see them get big and then sell out. And when I say sell out, just sell their business, not call it an individual sellout, but they sell their businesses. You have BET and then you got to sell it. A bunch of black musical artists came up with their own like streaming service, got really big, sold it. You even had Beats by Dre. You had the headphones and these expensive headphones, got a bunch of money, sold it. And so when you look back, you really don't see a situation of people who have business leaders and owners who have pride in keeping something for the community. And so because they don't really, they only show loyalty to themselves and their pockets and their family, and they don't really show it to the community, you really don't have a situation where people are sitting back here thinking about the community. And so what I think we need now is to make sure that we look at the examples that we have of people, of black people who are doing great things, and celebrate those. And the ones who are not doing great, who do great things but then sell it off, you can still celebrate them, but celebrate them in a different light. That was cool. You did a good job. However, we have people over here like Tyler Perry who make a business, and it's a big black business, and plenty of other people would love to buy it up off of him, but he keeps it because it's important for the community. We celebrate that even more. And so that we can give and provide to our people a little bit of sense of pride, that there is a pride and responsibility to being black. And so that we can kind of do little things like that, I think, for our time for action. But I think what's more important than anything else is that we talk, is that we stop sitting back here and we let people just do things and we don't say anything about it. we shake our head and be like, that's a shame. I think your kids and the young people, or even older people, can't hear what's right or wrong, or what is a better opinion or a better way or a different way, if we're not saying anything. If all we're doing is being, that's wrong. Or we want to be so PC and be, politically correct, or we want to be so nice and soft. Look, you don't have to be rude to tell the truth. But I think there's a burden upon us as people of color. There's a burden upon us as Christians that when we see something that we think is wrong, that we say something. And we don't have to be 100% right, but you need to talk and you need to say something, because then that conversation can start. So if I'm not 100% right, then I'm only 50% right. At least I can get that 50% into you. And then I got another 50% where I can learn where I need to get on the right track. But we have to start talking to these issues. As they say, talk truth to power. We need to just talk, period. And a lot of us have gone too long with trying to be nice, trying not to hurt people's feelings, trying to stay out the fray. Maybe we don't think that we're smart enough or whatever. I don't know what the reason and the rationale is that we all come up with. And I've done it as well as everybody else. We just don't talk enough. And we got to stop letting things go by, because these the younger people are sitting back here getting the wrong information, because the people who are wrong are loud and proud about what they want to do. Then we need to be at least loud and proud about what we do, and to make sure that people get on the right path. And so, good part about the story is, going back to the story of my son, he said, after he went, the boy said he didn't want to be black. My son said he was racist, but he also told him, you're crazy. You should be proud of being black. And so that's what we all have to do. We can't just leave it at, oh, he said something crazy and walk away. We need to make sure that we give a little bit back out there. And I think this is our response. Our response is that we have to do more, and we got to stop being silent. All right. That's it. Great conversation, great comments that came in. I appreciate all the comments that came in. I'm going to remind everyone, again, a time for decision. That's going to be this Saturday at 1 o'clock at Amani Christian Ministry. So please join us. Please join us. And for that, we have another comment that slid in. Oh, yep, we do. And we're going to handle this next comment. As we come towards Black History Month, do we realize that after Harriet Tubman escaped from slavery, she went back to get others? She sacrificed her life and freedom to help others gain their freedom. We have to come together and stand together. I think that kind of hits, that hits right there. And I'm not going to belabor the point, but I think what's important is, if we think that we've gotten to a place, or we think that we're in a comfortable place of where we should be, or even just a little bit further on the journey of enlightenment. So if I think that I understand what it means to be Black, if I think I understand what it means to be Christian, I have a responsibility to go back like Harriet Tubman did and get others. And it is not a forceful thing of where I grab some others. If you know anything about Harriet Tubman offered it out to people, and everybody didn't come. Some people were too scared to take the journey. Some people just didn't want to go. And so I think that we have to go back and make sure, like Harriet Tubman and like this comment is here, especially in Black History Month, we have an obligation to make sure that everybody else knows our story. And it goes back to that talking. It goes back to that we have the obligation to give everybody else an opportunity, obligation to the community, to the we. And so, yeah, I think we should all be Harriet Tubmans. We should all be Harriet Tubmans, and there should be no kids that are sitting back here talking about, I'm ashamed of being Black, or I don't want to be Black. That just means that somebody didn't tell somebody along the line, whether it be the kid didn't tell his parents, didn't tell his cousins, uncles, whatever, didn't know about the greatness of being Black, didn't know about the greatness of God, because something missed along the line. And I think it's our responsibility to all be Harriet Tubmans and go back and tell these people, tell everybody our story, and others to tell us. Like, not that we're perfect, but if we got a little bit, we need to take our little bit and spread that with everybody else. All right. That's another great comment. Thank you. All right. Thank you for everybody joining us. Remember, on Thursday, we have weekly Bible study at 7 o'clock right here, Facebook and YouTube. Sundays, 10 o'clock, worship service. And on Tuesdays at 7, we have prayer. And please continue to join us for all of the other offerings as well. Thank you for joining us today. And again, at 8 and every Tuesday, we will have Impact 2025. Have a good one and see you next time.